Hello guys, Anthony here. It's been a long time. I don't have a watch, but it's been a fucking long time since I've done it. It feels like forever. It's been like 3.5 weeks, but it feels like forever. So anyway, I'm coming here to do another video that I wanted to do, and I didn't really have to think too hard about it because it was just kind of something that kind of came together. And in my head, and I was like, you know what, let me do a video about it. And it's been a busy past couple of weeks. I had Comic-Con, and I took my friend to prom, her prom and prom weekend. So it was like a really big stuff going on where I can't even think straight for 1 second to try to put something together. So I kind of feel bad in that regard, but at the same time, what am I going to do? I can't help myself not to feel, I guess unmotivated, but not unmotivated as in, like, I don't want to do it. It's in the fact that, like, I can't be motivated because I have so much going on. So I apologize for that ahead of time. But as a side note, we are going to do, like, hopefully a Revelations 2 podcast soon, because now Perry beat it, so we can all talk about it. And it'll be kind of cool. I replayed some chapters, refreshed my head a little bit, got some, some fresh ideas ready. So I have stuff lined up. It's just like, when can I do it? I don't know. I've just been so busy this month, May in general, busy, working, and then doing everything else that I had planned outside of this. So, you get what I'm saying. But anyway, that's beside the point. That's over with. Now, I want to do a video talking about my favorite era in gaming, or my favorite time in gaming. And it's something that I know that I've talked about before in, like, I guess, certain videos or podcasts, or I might have, like, talked about it maybe like in a flashback episode. And that's another thing, because, like, I'm working on, like, a Syphon filter retrospect kind of thing for all the 3 games, and I'll get to that in a second too. But it's like, when you're kind of doing videos based on that, you really are reminded of a lot of things. So in the midst of me kind of putting everything together, it made me want to do this video. So it's kind of weird. It's like I'm working on another video, but because of that, thoughts like kind of spawned another video. So it's kind of cool how that came about, which was just a couple days ago. But my favorite time in gaming, I grew up with PlayStation, and obviously that's my favorite console. And but for me, it was really the late 90s for me, and early 2000s, because not even PS2. I love PS2. Don't get me wrong, but the PlayStation era, obviously games like Resident Evil, that goes without saying. But there's a lot of stuff that I want to show you guys, especially in that flashback series, that really, because, like, the reason why it's so special to me is because those games and that era and that console and that time period literally spawned everything else that I'm into. Because back in the day, there wasn't internet, to talk to all these people and to, like, kind of connect. The way that I would meet friends was through video games. Like, we would just end up being, young, in, like, kindergarten class, and just being like, oh, like, you like this game, you like this game, and you'd hang out and play games, play split screen. That was a different thing. Nowadays, I have the internet and other things, and people can communicate. I've made friends over online and stuff like that, and even met them in real life. Perry's one of them. Steven is one of them. Like, there's a lot of people that I was, so fortunate enough to meet, really awesome friends, and back then it was a very different thing. So kind of that era for me, that really got me, that opened up my head to what I like. Like, I wouldn't have this poster, or this record player, and, like, it's just that, for me, gaming spawned. And then obviously movies were another thing, and then it was one of those things where it was really, I never felt like I was forced into liking something, or I should not like something, because I was one of those, like, reserved kids growing up and still am. I kind of have my own group of friends and that's it, but I never try to put on a show for anybody or think or act fake or anything like that of what I like, or maybe it's too like hipster, like, you know, everybody likes to put a stereotype on stuff. But the cool thing is that back then it was a very different thing, you know, social media wasn't a thing, and I was happy that I kind of grew up in that time period. I would go to Hometown Video, you know, a place that James Rolfe himself, the Angry Video Game Nerd, would go to. Yeah, because he grew up in this area. James Rolfe graduated from my high school. You know, I've talked to teachers when I was in high school. I graduated last year, and they knew James Rolfe and stuff like that. And I was like, you know, he's like so famous. He even did his VHS collection video a couple years ago. Not the one with JonTron, but the other one. And he even said, like, Hometown Video, that's a local chain here. Very local, strictly. Not as mainstream as Blockbuster used to be. But I remember going to Hometown Video and renting PlayStation games. Like, there was N64 games, and then there's N64 on this side, and then over, like, in the corner, there would be, like, PS1 games. And I would rent VHS tapes, and that's how I found horror. So it was, like, during that little spurt of time, the reason why I get so nostalgic and whole wistful about it and kind of like, oh, you know, it's just the games like Crash Bandicoot, all of those games, Syphon Filter, all those games, and you'll see when I do my review eventually that, you know, kind of how that has affected me for gaming. It really kind of opened the door, you know what I mean? Because nowadays, you know, if you're like friends with somebody, there's so much stuff that kind of goes into it. Back then, it was just like, well, oh, you like this game, let's be friends. You know, my friend John, I've known for 15 years. We met through just like, you know, in class back in like 2000, and we were like, you know what, we like this game, blah blah blah, or we like Twisted Metal, and we would, you know, come over and play. Resident Evil 4 came out. I go to his house, play it, you know, because his mom used to like babysit me kind of, because my parents wouldn't get home from work at a certain time, so I would take the bus and go to his house and bring Resident Evil 4 in my backpack. I would take it, or wrestling games, whatever I had. So that's, but that was after that era. But even PlayStation, though, the same thing happened. The demo discs and the magazines, and watching my dad play Resident Evil 3, watching my dad play Resident Evil, you know, watching my brother play certain games, and Metal Gear Solid, you know, he got Metal Gear Solid, I watched him play that for the first time, and it's a very special thing. I remember I had this TV room, and I can show you footage from when I recently went in my old house. They're turning it into, they're kind of turning it into like, it kind of got it got renovated again, and they kind of redid some stuff, but you can kind of see right now. I'll show you a clip of the TV room, and I apologize for the camera work because I was holding my phone at a different way, but I was recording it, and I went in there last year. I moved out of there in 2008. I grew up in this house, and that house is still, it's a couple minutes away from where I live now, and not even, it's down the street, and it was very important. That TV room, my dad used to play all his PlayStation 1 games there. And remember, that TV didn't have AV cords, which were the yellow, white, and red. So we used to have a cable wire cord where you would plug it into the PlayStation, and then it would have the regular end that would go into the console, and then the other end would be like a little box, and it would have a little cable like snub at the end of it, little, you know, the little thing that's like on the back of TVs. You know what I'm talking about, or like VHS players. And you would plug it in, you would take your cable wire that would go into your TV and plug it into that box. And there would be a little switch on it that said channel 3 or 4. So if you do like channel 4, which would be my channel preference, you would go to your TV, turn it on, and you'll see channel 4, whatever channel 4 would be on your cable. But as soon as you turn that console on, it would transmit over the signal. I probably still have I really wish I could show you. I don't even know. I probably still have a cord like that. I don't know. A lot of them would break a lot of the time. But yeah, it's probably somewhere. I probably have it in like the bag back there. Like I have a bag of like all old cores. It's probably there, but I'll show you that some other day maybe. But and that's why I would play these games and watch him playing growing up, and he would have the strategy guides. I remember getting Syphon Filter 2 the first day it came out, and I went out to the mall with my dad and he got it. And I remember the parachute like level when you're in the snow. It's the first one, and the first level and the second one, and you're in like, I think it's Colorado or something, and you're in like the mountains and you drop down. It was awesome. And Dino Crisis, I remember watching him play Dino Crisis and looking at the guidebook, and it was like a really interesting time because it was kind of like the end to an era of like, you know, the whole 90s. I feel like PS2, it was another generation, but it was a wave of it was something different. I loved it, but it didn't really click for me. Now it could have been that way for anybody else. And I love PlayStation 2. I'm not taking away anything from it, but I'm saying that era of late 90s stuff, it was just fucking great. And, you know, with Duke Nukem and Blasto and Jersey Devil, and within all those demos, I mean, I remember I would wake up on the weekends and my mom, because like the TV room would be connected. It was like connected to my parents' room. So you would have like the TV room, and then there'll be a little walkway, and then it would open up to my parents' room. So my dad would already be working, and my mom would be home some weekends. And I'd, you know, she would always hear me kind of turn on the console and like play. I'd like lower the volume so it wouldn't wake her up and stuff like that. And she would hear like the explosions of Syphon Filter and the gunshots and stuff, because that's what I would do. That was, you know, such a big part. And it spawned everything that I'm into because of being exposed to that. Thanks to my dad. And thanks to growing up with a family that, you know, didn't force or take away anything. You know what I mean? Like, you know, yeah, I played violent games when I was younger, but, you know, it didn't affect me. They were fun. You know, it started... Yeah, I would watch Die Hard on VHS over and over and over and over and over. That VHS is probably worn out. I don't even know where it is. But it's, I wish I could find it, but like, I would just watch it so much and play PS1, and say the Die Hard Trilogy 2, that was on Die Hard Trilogy 1, that was a great one. You know, there's a lot of things that, you know, really clicked for me, but this era was really special. And I was thinking about this the other day, and a lot of like, that's why it's always good to kind of look back on certain things, because like in 2008 when I moved into this house, it was like the end of a really chapter for me. It was a strange year, and everybody that I talked to kind of realizes that around here anyway. Like 2008, I moved from my house, and the Acco Multiplex, which was a great theater that was around for years. It used to have drive-ins back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and then there was an actual multiplex theater with, you know, 14 screens, and it's like that was closing down at the end of the summer. And then Hometown Video was closing, which was the video rental store. You know what I mean? It was kind of a weird... And then I was moving... It was like everything that was like old was just like kind of being pushed away, you know what I mean, for better or for worse, I don't know, but I mean, the Acco Multiplex did do good business. I think it was just the company around there, but you know, when I thought about the time period and moving away from my old house with all those memories, you know, it really makes me miss it a lot, you know, and it's still something that I hold dear, you know, those memories, because that's all you have at the end of the day is playing those games and growing up in that. You know, like where you experience it is important too, not just experiencing it, but that was your home, you know. And then Acco Multiplex is where I saw so many movies, you know, growing up, and that's how I got into movies, was going to see movies there. And now it's demolished, you know. It was just rotting for a while, and then it's demolished, and now it's just a lot with just trees and shit growing, you know, out of it. And Hometown Video is like something else now. You know, and that was a really important... So it was like... Because that was like kind of goes together. It strings together of what that late 90s into 2000s era kind of started. For me, personally. So obviously I'm the only one that can kind of tell you like how I feel about it. But maybe you guys can, say the same for certain things. Maybe a place that you lived in and what you played and like kind of how it all connects. It's a very nostalgic thing, and it's important to talk about it. But I guess that's another thing why I brought it up, because it was like the era in gaming that like my favorite time period was that like fragment. It might have been short lived, but there's not a time that goes by, enough time where I don't think about it. You know what I mean? And it started this. It made me start this channel, any channel that I made, because it's like I've liked this stuff since I was a kid. I'm going to continue liking it, and then I want to actually show my experiences or show my opinion or share my opinions or do that. It's just like it was just cause and effect. It was just literally a single line of just like go from point A to point B, C, D, like just across the board. And that's why that's what made me want to make this video, is because I was just like, wow, if you really think about it, it was just that it just took that little spark to start the fire of just everything that I like. And that's why I'm never ashamed, because a lot of people are like, they go under the stereotype of, oh, like, if you like all this shit, or like if you're a nerd or like a fan, like, like you don't like get like girls, or you're not like successful, or you're not like all this, because like a lot of people put that stereotype out there, like especially when you're growing up and you're around like in school and stuff like that. I know it could be hard for a lot of people to kind of feel, kind of like accepted with like other people that are going out there and doing and saying those things. But, I'm friends with, a bunch of girls that love the shit that I'm into. You know what I mean? I'm friends with a bunch of like guys that like that, it's just a progressive thing. Like you're just friends with who you are friends with. I never set out to do anything, different. It was just like, look, I like what I like. And if you don't like that, then we're probably not going to be friends anyway. You know what I mean? It takes the both of you to kind of make that connection of just being friends, with guys, girls, or anybody. Bonding with family members, it's the same thing. It's just, and so that's why it's just important to just not be ashamed of like kind of what you love, and like not kind of, desensitize it, I guess, by, thinking something else, like, because I never understood it, you know what I mean? Like I never understood why people felt like that they need to be forced into liking something, or it's like a popularity thing. And like me, like I said, I always just had my group of friends and stuff like that. And, it was one of those things that you really just don't want to just like make yourself upset because you're not liking those things. Because everybody had something in their lives that really just started that passion of something, of anything, of making videos or playing games or something. It was that, like, you can think back to a time period, you know what I mean? Like I remember Spider-Man, playing the first Spider-Man in 2000. I remember that. I remember playing the demo. It sold me on the game. And getting Entry Electro. It was just a bit like everybody has just that like small fragments of years when you're a little kid. You don't, because when you get older you realize, wow, I had so much time on my hands and I just played games, and now I kill for that time back. You know what I mean? But I like that. It's funny, because when you're a kid, you don't fucking care. You're not working, you're not worrying about your future. You're just like, all right, I'm gonna come home from school or all the whole weekend, just literally play PlayStation 1. That was me. That was me. Or play split screen on Twisted Metal or split screen on Syphon Filter 2, like versus mode. That was me. And like you don't realize when you get older, you're like, wow, if I could have that time again, I would kill for that time. And it's just I talk about it with my friends to this day. It's like, man, when we were kids, like we fucking, like even recently, up until, before, the past couple of years, like, wow, like we did have a lot of time. Not, now it's just like, you got to make time. So with anything, with relationships or friends or, video games or movies, like, or doing videos like this, you got to make your own time. So what was your guys' favorite era in gaming? What did you grow up with? Did you grow up with PlayStation 1 but end up actually really having a thing for the PS2 era or Xbox? Like maybe, or Nintendo. N64 is another really big part of the 90s, and I did have an N64 later, but my cousin had one, so I'd always play those games at his house back in the day. So yeah, I mean, what's your favorite era? Was GameCube? Yeah, 360. Oh, hey, you could grow up in that time period and it didn't really click or connect until a certain point. I love the 360 era too, but the thing is that for me, when it really, the ones that I look back fondly of the most is the PlayStation era, the first console. So I want to hear your thoughts. I thought this was an interesting video. It would start some conversation. It's an interesting topic, especially if you're feeling nostalgic and want to kind of go back a trip down memory lane. So yeah, I thought it'd be cool. And I haven't released anything in a while, and I thought that this would be a cool thing to just release. So thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one.